3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by an artist, illustrator, and basketball fanatic.
Yeah.
Kev Gold, aka Onos. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I've known you for quite a while now, but it's going to be interesting to dive into your story, hear how a kid from Melbourne started to become one of the go-to guys to paint all sorts of basketballs all around the world, man. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, man. I hope so.
So let's start in the beginning. You grew up in the suburbs of Melbourne. Where did you grow up and how did you get involved in art?
Caulfield, man. Born and raised, still there.
Still there.
Still there. Never going to leave. No, I'm joking. I'll probably end up leaving one day. Getting into art, I don't know. I think ever since I was a kid, always drew and stuff, and then got into a bit of graffiti and rolled with that for quite a while, and that kind of evolved into studio practice stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a kid growing up, and I think there's a big resurgence for 90s culture now, obviously, but people around about our age, basketball back then was huge.
Yeah.
And that culture just was everything.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But like the thing, there's a few of us in the basketball scene that never grew out of it. And like there was a point in like the early 2000s, like mid 2000s, that it was impossible to get games here. So like even to the point where like my family in the States would send me like replay tapes of playoffs so
Really?
I could watch something, because it was
DVDs?
no, like VHS tapes, yeah, because like internet was impossible to get games and stuff like that. So it was like a point of time where like, I literally had to wait like weeks to get a game.
Wow. Yeah, there's no NBA League Pass back then.
No, nothing like that. As soon as it came out, I think I would have to been one of the first to get it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how does a kid from Caulfield start his journey to where you are now, working and presenting your art to some of the biggest names in basketball? How does that start? At art class at school?
Yeah, I guess so. Like I was always obviously one of the better students in art class at school. I never really went to like private art classes or anything like that. I kind of thought that I would have some sort of a profession in like graphic design or animation or some sort of design work. And and art was always there in my back pocket sort of thing.
So what are you drawing? You're just recreating what you're seeing on TV, comic books, that sort of thing?
In my early days, yeah, for sure. And it was like a strong influence in a lot of the stuff I was doing, especially because I was definitely focusing more on t-shirt design. That was like my first like creative breakaway from strict design, animation stuff. And so yeah, there was a lot of hip hop and basketball and all like that 90s culture kind of leaking into my t-shirt graphics. Yeah.
And that was a pretty prominent thing in mainstream culture around that time too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was definitely riding the trends.
Yeah.
And it was weird because back then, like, it was pretty early in social media and people were accessible. So like I could talk to like legends like Ken Taylor and Mike Giant, and they would like all respond. So like
Via Instagram?
Yeah. So like I think like I was networking without even knowing what networking was, and I was lucky to get influence from these guys and like trying to like figure out a way how I can build a career out of like, graffiti stuff.
It's interesting you mentioned Mike Giant because he's still pretty good on the socials. He's going live all the time, man.
Yeah. Well, now he's like he's a superstar now. Back then he was very popular in like the t-shirt graffiti world, and I was like, it was a pleasure to meet him. And like when he came down to Australia, and I even like got to assist him a bit when he was down here, and I was like, "Do you remember me at all? I used to like bother you on social media." He didn't remember me, but yeah, it's cool to meet your idols and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the best things about social media is you are only one inbox away from potentially connecting with someone you've always wanted to talk to or work with.
Absolutely.
Whether or not they respond, because a lot of them, I'm sure, has a very deep request box, but you never know. Sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do, yeah. If you harass a person enough, then eventually...
Yeah, I think what a lot of them do is just send a generic response like, hit my email up, and then that way they've responded and they may or may not get back to you.
Absolutely. The networking game is the most underrated part, I think, of the art world.
For sure. But the thing is with networking is like, if you do it well, you're not even realizing you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Like going to a studio open or just going to your mate's gallery show or going to a gig. Like when you do it properly, you don't realize you're networking, you just are.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think that would be like the greatest advice to give any up and coming artist is just like, you know, you never know who you're going to meet. Be nice to everyone, chat, find out about them, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just go out there and do stuff. A lot of people live their life online now, you know, go to actual gigs, go to events, go to openings, go to fucking anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've definitely been to, it has to be in the thousands of openings and stuff like that by now. Yeah, definitely.
And that's the beauty of it. When you do it properly, you don't even realize you just want to go to this event and then you meet someone else and then, you know.
Yeah, you never know. Like I've definitely would have gotten opportunities from just going to events and meeting people in like, especially if like the event is something that like is similar to your kind of work and stuff like that. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back on your journey.
Yeah.
So you're drawing like, I'm guessing, you know, cartoon stuff, and then you think, all right, well, how can I fucking shoehorn this into a career?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, I think like, so I was doing a lot of t-shirt stuff and murals kind of on the side, and slowly murals became more and more like you could make money off murals.
So we're talking sort of mid-2000s?
Yeah, sort of like mid-2000s, and yeah, there was like sort of a boom in Melbourne, definitely a demand for murals and
the street art.
Street art, yeah, every cafe wanted it and like all that kind of shit. And yeah, and I sort of like started making money off murals, and I was like, shit, like at this whole time, like I was still at uni, I was doing industrial design, and then like I transitioned into animation, and the like I was working at a pizza shop, so like I was studying full time, working at a pizza shop full time, pretty much like 6 days a week, and like making time for murals and stuff like that.
Man.
And I was like slowly like I really want to do more of the art stuff. So at this point I had never picked up a paintbrush really. And what I did was, and I've said this before, is like I slowly started taking away a day from my full-time job and then dedicating that day to art, my art practice.
Like a slow transition.
Like every 3 months I removed a day.
It's a great idea.
And then like after whatever, how many, it was like, 2 years or whatever, I was like full-time art. And by the time I realized I was full-time art, I was like, shit, I've got no income.
So the dollars weren't following the transition?
No, I thought it would be like a smooth transition. I was like, but no, it allowed me to, like, I'd live off my murals. Like murals were paying pretty well, and then like I just kind of budget my money accordingly. And in the downtime, I just like, all right, I need to like expand my horizons. So you studied YouTube tutorials. I played around with all different mediums. I started learning how to paint with a brush and kind of like finding my way.
So when you say painting with a brush, before that it's all markers and aerosol?
Yeah, all markers and aerosol. A lot of
Your Wacom sort of stuff.
I didn't even like. Yeah, a little bit
With
of
the animation, I'd imagine it's a bit of that.
yeah. That was like towards the end. I started mucking around with the Wacom, but like even all my T-shirt graphics, I drew them by hand and then vectored them with a brush,
Right.
without any Wacoms until towards the end.
The live trace tool on Illustrator.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I had to like get it so crisp that when I scanned it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you're learning how to paint, and that's, I guess, yeah, the aerosol thing's one thing, but then, yeah, trying a whole new discipline and sort of learning to use new mediums must be an interesting part of the journey as an established person. You know what I mean? Most
Yeah.
people would kind of use brushes in
Yeah.
earlier stages.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely tough, and I kind of try to like find shortcuts to make stuff look more real. So like aerosol always finds its way back into my work to smooth things over, and
Get those skin tones.
yeah, and definitely learning color was. I think that's the biggest challenge is learning how to mix colors.
And that if you studied fine art, you would learn that stuff. But if you're studying industrial design, then you're not going to learn the color sort of. But yeah,
But it's back to that networking thing. So like I was hitting up like, artists like fine studio painting kind of dudes on Instagram and asking them for tips, and like they would show me all these different ways to like color match. So like even for skin colors and stuff, they would like mix a bit of paint and put it on their hand, and like they're like, does that look like skin color or is that like yellow next to your skin? And like kind of learn how to mix colors that way, and like over time it's just like all by eye now.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just learning the process.
Yeah.
So at this stage, where did the Onos name sort of come from? Is that from the graffiti sort of stuff?
Yeah, the Onos name came from graffiti sort of stuff, and like I used to write, and I had trouble with the law under my old name, so like I wanted to move away from that and have like a legit kind of new word.
Yeah.
And because paranoia was back then, like, they might like, do a police check on me and I've been arrested and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, so I need a new word. And my mates always said Onos Kevos because I'm a clumsy guy. So that's where the Onos comes from. My clumsiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun, like moving down the track now, but a lot of these people have a name that they're known for, and then their actual name.
Yeah.
You look at someone like, Tom Gerard, who
Yeah.
went full Tom Gerard or
Yeah.
Jared Gerard.
Yeah.
But so now you're not just Onos, you're like Kev Onos Gold. Like,
Yeah.
You're your own sort of brand as well.
Yeah, kind of hyphenated it. And like that transition was like terrifying as well, because there was like I think there was a back and forth with that for at least like 3 or 4 years. It was like, well, like, all these serious artists is transitioning to their actual name.
It's a bit of a maturity thing, do you think?
Yeah, it's like to get taken a bit more serious. And I was like, all my socials are tagged Onos. I don't want to change all the like previous tags, because like, I've worked with LA Times and stuff like that, and they tagged Onos on socials. I don't want that name to disappear.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided the hyphenating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, in that, well, for fucking lack of a better term, street art kind of boom, everybody needed, I felt like everyone needed, like, an interesting name.
Yeah.
And then now the trend is everyone needs their normal name.
Yeah. It was, definitely a tough transition, but like I'm happy with where I landed.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that the plan moving forward, is to do it like that? So is Kev Gold different to Onos, or are they one and the same? Obviously,
Nah.
you're the same person.
Yeah, no, I think they're one and the same. I think like I got the quotation marks around the Onos, but like, people address me as Kevin, which is nice, instead of Onos in emails.
Yeah. But you're still a clumsy dude?
Yeah, I'm still totally clumsy, man. Like, even like I was just, oh my God. I feel like every vacation that I take, like I have some sort of an epic injury, and I just like came back off my honeymoon, and like even over there, like I rolled my ankle so bad, like I heard a pop, and I was like, oh my God, walking around with like super wrapped ankle and shit. Every time I go away, it's terrible.
Moral of the story: stay here in Melbourne.
Yeah, yeah.
So back on your artistic journey, so Onos is a thing. You're doing some murals. You're learning to work with different mediums. Is this around about the same time that the Artshole pops off?
Artshole popped off in 2011, so
Which is a long time now.
it was a long time ago. Yeah, 13 years. Shit. And yeah, this was like kind of in between my industrial design and my animation days.
So when you say industrial design, just break it down for people. Like obviously that's designing products, but what kind of products were you looking at?
So I was like an avid toy collector. So like when I was going into industrial design, I majored in toy design. That was my shit. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the next Cool Rain or whatever, you know, designing custom hip hop toys and yeah. And then so toy design into animation, and then somewhere like I had like a year and a half off between courses, and we got approached by Fallon Frames. He's like, oh, the space upstairs from us is vacant. We used to hang out at Roger's house, who's Dodgy Paper.
Yeah, Dodgy Roger. And
we were just having a barbecue, and he's like, yeah, there's a space opened up upstairs. Do you want to split it with me? And me and Roger been talking about it for like years to get a studio space. And we're like, yeah. So we jumped on it. And at that stage, it was literally an old Krav Maga studio. So it was like completely empty, massive space. And we moved in and we're like, shit, there's like 3 desks in there and nothing else. Yeah. So
it's not like that anymore.
No, it's not like that anymore. But yeah, and it flourished from there.
Yeah. So it was you and Rog, and then who else did you, in that initial period, who else did you get to jump in?
So it was me, Rog, and this guy, Sean Carroll, who was like, he worked at Backwoods Gallery back then. And that's it at that point. And then eventually Laura moved in, which is Roger's partner.
And Rog wasn't doing the paper stuff then, he was doing art?
Yeah, straight Chi or staying creative, back then. And then we got AMAC, and then like after that it started rolling. I think like it was just the 4 or 5 of us for like a year or so. It was a bit sad. We were like finding like random bits of furniture on the road and like moving it in, trying to fill out the space, and then AMAC came in, and about a year or so in, which we met him at a internet cafe where we used to play World of Warcraft and stuff like that. Yeah,
internet cafe.
Yeah, we used to all be gamers back in the day, and and then it started snowballing. We started like getting people, and then it really grew momentum when we got Boy Wolf in there. So as soon as he came in there, he started like bringing in all these cool artists, and like he's got the energy, like really hype. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah, we're gonna take over the world, and he's probably one of the key reasons the Artshole is still here today, for sure.
And he has moved on to bigger and better things. Well, I shouldn't say better things, but he's got his own space.
Yeah, we can say bigger and better things for him.
Well, man, I remember getting some tees printed there with him, and it was just a carousel with like 4 or 5. Now you look at his socials, he's got this fucking huge automated spider thing. It's crazy.
That thing was like, so through Sean Carroll, his, I don't know, I think it was like his uncle or something, like owned Billabong or one of those kind of brands. Yeah. And it was like their first carousel that they found like in the back of a garage.
Oh, wow.
And Sol,
I think would have some stories.
So like we had it in the space, and Sol was like, oh, maybe I can like, use this and print T-shirts and stuff, because he had Boy Wolf, but he wasn't printing his own stuff back then. And then it kind of like birthed from that. And it's so funny. There's like lots of stories like that in the studio.
For sure.
Yeah, like little origin stories of brands that like grew from there.
So yeah, wow, that's Saul is going to do an episode which will be sick.
Yeah.
But that's amazing that he was just literally lying around and
Yeah.
he thought I can make the most of this, and now he's made that his
Yeah.
life's work.
Yeah, same with Roger. Like I gifted him, like I always like give him little funny gifts that I find around, and I found this children's paper making kit at an op shop, and I bought it for him. And then from that, his dodgy paper. Yeah.
Which is so cool, and that's such a sick concept, man. Like
Yeah.
to make, one-off pieces of paper for people that might have something sentimental to them.
Yeah.
So sick.
That's awesome.
And at the Artshole, you can't talk about the Artshole without talking about art pong, man.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So it's a game that I don't really participate in.
You can't not participate when you're there.
It annoys me because it's right next to my area, but on everybody's birthday, they're allowed to challenge me to a game. That's kind of the rule. Apart from that, we're like, it's like, it's a interesting invention of a game. It's, if you've never been there, it's like a projection table. So like a glass top, like a light box sort of thing with all these little knickknacks all over it, which are like obstacles created from random art things, and then they play each other on this teeny tiny desk.
And it can go off the wall. And the rules are crazy.
The rules are crazy. Art pong, yeah.
For sure. But yeah, only on your birthday, only on their birthday they can challenge you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just sitting there and fucking ping pong balls are flying around and you're like, I'm trying to focus.
It was like that for a while until I implicated that they have to install like a safety net. Now there's a net, and whenever I'm around working, they have to put up the net.
Yeah. The law of the land.
Yeah.
So, man, and you've had heaps of interesting artists come through there, like we mentioned, Tom Jarrett, Mitch Walder. I think Glenn Crisis, Crisis is still there.
He's still there.
There's been a lot of interesting people, man.
Yeah, we have a graveyard of like all previous members, nearly taken up the whole length of the wall. I think this is the longest time in Artshole history that we haven't had anyone move out. It's like been no one since like 2022.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So but for something just to, like a creative space like that to stay functioning for 13 years, like you said, is a feat in itself, man.
Yeah, I think we're going to be one of the longest standing street art studios in Melbourne. Yeah, for sure.
Everfresh is still going.
Everfresh is still going. They've moved though, I think like once or twice, and I think the other one really was like Juddy Roller, and they're not a space anymore. But yeah, we're still rolling. Rolling with the punches.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be there for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. People are making a living out of there, and it's operational, and the owner loves us.
Which is cool, because a lot of those spaces generally, the landlords say, we'll put these creatives in there for a bit until we get our, and then we'll boot them out. But he sees it as an ongoing venture, which is awesome.
Yeah, he absolutely loves it. He's like a massive fan of the arts, and he just embraces us. He's always looked after us. Even we have a neighbor who shares the building with us, and he's an artist as well, and he's been there since like I think the 80s.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. The Artshole, if you don't follow him on Instagram, you should check him out.
Yeah.
So with your personal stuff, at this stage, you start to think, all right, the murals are doing well. Do I try and... I'm doing a bit of portrait stuff. How does the sport/basketball thing sort of spawn?
So I had my first solo show in 2016. And
which is a while between starting,
Yeah, it was a while before starting, and my first solo show, and I try to kind of really consider my work a lot and what I put out there, and that at that point I was really trying to find my voice and how to separate myself from kind of what's out there, and the way that I figured that was I try to put myself into my work. And at that point I was painting portraitures of women, and the way I kind of implemented myself was I painted them on basketball courts. I put them in basketball swag. Lots of like stuff on memorabilia. So like I created flags and painted them on flags, like pennants and stuff, and like really like pushed myself through into these portraits. And off the back of the success of that, because like it sold out immediately, I was like, oh shit, maybe like people are more interested in these portraits because of those kind of elements. And like I stepped back and I was like, maybe like I should just dive into, you know, just full sports kind of stuff, because like
you liked it anyway.
I loved it. And it was actually like kind of like serendipitous, because like after the show, like I was helping my parents clean out the garage, and I found like all these illustrations from when I was like in first and second grade of like Shaq and Jordan and all this shit. And I was like, fuck, this is like really like tapping into like the younger me. And I was like, I'm just going to try this out for a while, see where it goes. Because no one was really doing it back then. It was like, you know, the Shift Refresh, which is a legend out from Townsville, and like Tyson Beck, which is, you know, the goat of sports design, graphic art sort of stuff. But no one was actually doing it in like a physical painting kind of way. And I was like, oh, maybe there's a market kind of for this. Because like the world was very small back then.
Yeah. Well, I guess Instagram wasn't what it is now.
No.
So there was the art niche was a small community in itself.
Yeah, and then the sports art world was literally like I could tell you it was like probably like I did a lot of digging, and it was like maybe 30 or 40 people around the world doing it, like back then.
Yeah, for sure.
And no one really out of Australia. And the thing that separated me from a lot of those dudes was I could do murals as well. Yeah. So I was like, maybe there's a market for this. And a lot of my friends were like, man, like there's no money in this. Like what team is gonna want this kind of stuff, you know?
Really?
Yeah, like a lot of people were like, I think this is a mistake, but I just was like, I'm gonna just try it out, see where it goes.
For sure.
Yeah.
And now do you say, oi, fucking look at how I'm done?
Never. Because like I think like all that kind of stuff, you know, gives you an edge, and you know, helps push you along, and like I'm gonna fucking prove those guys wrong. So,
well that's it, man.
Yeah, and I love that stuff.
A lot of people that I speak to that are creators on this show, it sounds bad, but the spite helps push them.
Yeah, there's a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, I'm going to show you I can do it.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it depends on the individual, because I think some people can just take that negativity and it breaks them a bit, but other people can take that negativity and go, no, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was big on basketball and the Mamba mentality and all that kind of shit. So it was like a culmination of all these things, like my childhood, Mamba mentality, you know, just everything. Yeah, just like spawned into this creature that I am today.
Yeah, for sure. And then that basketball in that 2016, I feel like it had a bit of a lull in popularity as well. Not to say that it dropped off, but it's very popular now. It was very popular in the early 2000s, very popular in the 90s, but I feel like, I don't know, mid 2010s, it kind of was a bit of it wasn't like what it is at the moment.
Absolutely. 2016, it was starting to get like a kind of resurgence with like, you know, the LeBron versus Kobe. Well, that was the end of Kobe's career in 2016, but like, yeah, the 2014 kind of thing, I was like people, that Kobe versus LeBron vengeance sort of kind of thing. So like it was kind of getting momentum again, I think then.
For sure. And I think about that time, the NBL was basically not happening.
Nah.
So that, and I know that people kind of say, oh yeah, but it's all about the NBA. I think having a grassroots program really helps just focus on the sport in general.
Absolutely. And, you know, like I think, as you were saying, like that 2016 era wasn't like that significant, but like it, you know, it helped influence, you know, people like Giddy and stuff like that, you know, to come through. And I think it was super important, and it was definitely like the tipping point where it started to rise here in Australia.
Yeah. And yeah, basketball's stronger than ever from an Australian, national team point of view. I think from the domestic league, the NBL is stronger than it's ever been. And globally, it's fucking popular.
Even like a couple of days ago, the Bill Simmons podcast, he was like, if I could go anywhere in the world right now, it would be Australia, and I really want to go to an NBL game.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hit the CEO of the NBL up and like, per DM. I'm like, Bill Simmons wants to come to an NBL game.
But that's the thing, man. I think for such a long time, being a proud Aussie sports fan,
Yeah.
You'd get behind the domestic leagues like the NBL, and people would be, oh, that's shit. They'd give it shit. But now, on a global scale, it gets recognition.
Absolutely.
They send people here
Yeah.
to break them in before the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like, I think it's going to be and they've always tried to do this. It'll be the other end as well, like when people are like tapering.
Happens in soccer a bit, yeah.
Yeah, where they're tapering out and they start sending them over here.
For sure.
But it's like a money thing, yeah. So as soon as the NBL has more money to throw at players, they'll definitely get those superstars to come here.
Yeah, and like it's funny because I think Kobe was one of the first to go out of high school. He went and played a year in Japan or something.
Nah, he went straight from high school to.
But he was one of the
NBA.
first that sort of made that transition because the college thing was just out the window.
Yeah, there was a handful of players that made it straight from high school into the NBA, and then they kind of banned it because it was only like a handful of them that actually succeeded. So it was like Kevin Garnett was the first, and then Kobe, Tracy McGrady, LeBron are kind of the only other successful ones. Everyone else
who had very long careers.
Yeah, which everyone else kind of fizzled out. Yeah.
So then I guess the NBA looks at it like, okay, either these kids aren't mature enough, they haven't matured, like whether that's physically or mentally.
Yeah.
So they thought, all right, well, because for people that don't understand, in college you don't get paid, and a lot of these people are seeing, fuck, I might only have the next 10 years to play basketball. Do I want to spend 4 of them getting paid nothing?
Yeah.
Making some collegiate fucking organisation money.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing that's kind of going on now. It's like they try to introduce, payment for players in college. That's why there are, players coming here because they're getting paid to like play straight out of high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's like kind of the bridging thing. But now, like the NCAA, the NBA had also a bridging thing where they tried a G League elite, and that's kind of failed. So like, I think they're going to rely a lot on the NBL now to like be that bridging.
Yeah, and the European leagues as well.
Yeah. But like, I think they really like Australia a lot because of how physical our league is, and that's why it's definitely getting noticed overseas.
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
The whole NCAA thing is funny. Like, it's going to really leave that college sports in a funny spot, man. Like, it's to use to sell their jerseys, to have them in video games, and to not pay them seems like something's not quite right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like they're slowly changing it, and I think like they'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, I think that players will definitely get more benefit from being in a proper league as opposed to like, there's Joe Blow who like is playing for the teams because he's studying and he has extra credit for basketball. Yeah.
Man, when I was a kid growing up, I never watched I was different to you. I never watched cartoons. I never watched any Disney shit. Never watched anything like that. But I tell you, I had a couple of VHSs.
Yeah.
Blue Chips, I watched a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And White Men Can't Jump. 2 movies that I just watched on repeat because I was such into basketball. But Blue Chips is all about that whole sort of thing, man.
Oh, it's so great.
So it's still a great movie.
So great. Yeah. Has aged excellently. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That whole thing. But yeah, and it would have been happening since the beginning of time where teams are not paying players, but they are figuring out a way to make it beneficial to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then now they're just starting to figure out, well, there's got to be a better way to do it.
Yeah, well, LeBron also had that thing with the Hummer and all that kind of shit. So it's a tale as old as time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And man, LeBron is like, how many more seasons can he fucking play for?
I think he's negotiating his last contract now. I think he'll get 3 years with the Lakers, and that'll be it. They'll sign his son somehow.
You reckon?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I think this is my prediction. As soon as LeBron retires, there'll be 1 year gap, and then there'll be a Vegas team, and he'll be the owner of the Vegas team.
That's not a prediction. That's what's going to happen.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a thing, though? Like, if people talking about it?
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like a known fact, or it is just a rumor.
No, it's fact. Even like if he's still playing well, he'll have a placeholder and he'll be the owner of that team because like he has pretty much a team. He has like a minority ownership in a team in like nearly every major sport already.
Really?
Yeah, so there's like Liverpool Football Club. He's got someone in there. I think he has the Boston Red Sox. He has like nearly every major league. He has ownership in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other cities are going to see expansion when Vegas gets a team, do you think?
It's going to be Seattle and
you
Vegas.
think
Yeah,
Seattle,
and they're going to move Memphis to the East Coast.
And whereabouts? Well, you don't know. You know, you said
It's going to be Memphis is going to stay Memphis, but because it's like right in the center of the map
to the conference.
They're going to move it to the Eastern Conference, and then they're going to have Seattle and Las Vegas.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Because Vegas, man, for many years they were like, oh, they can't have professional sports teams with the gambling thing.
Yeah.
But now, like, sports gambling in America, man, that's going to be unhealthy for the nation,
absolutely. I remember like going. My first time I went to the States was like just after September 11th. We went out there, and it was my first NBA game, and it was Knicks versus Lakers.
Good game to go to for your first one.
Yeah, at the Garden, and my uncle is an avid gambler, and he was talking about how unlucky they are to be in America where gambling is so hard, and he had to go through a bookie.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's the only way to like make sports interesting for him.
Yeah.
But like, he's like, in Australia, you can just go down the road and just put a bet on at the local. Yeah.
Man, when I was in the US in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
to try and explain to people there that you could go to any pub and bet on any sport you wanted to,
Yeah.
they couldn't comprehend it.
No.
They're like, what do you mean? You just go to a pub, mate. You go to a pub, you punch in anything you want.
Yeah.
And I know it's not that simple for them now in the US, but definitely online. I think that country that's going to be bad for the nation, man.
It's bad. And it's like, even like the last few years, like the transition of like all my, podcasts I listen to is like every second ad is like a gambling ad. Yeah.
ESPN has a gambling thing, which I think is almost like a conflict of interest.
Yeah. What can you do?
No, it is. Look, we've got it here, and I think it is bad and it's detrimental. And don't get me wrong, I still gamble and stuff, but I think that how easy it is to do it is bad. And I think for someone like the US, where people have a lot of trouble with other addictions already, to add that to the fold is going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
Listen, I don't gamble, and like I'm gonna say that it has its benefits because like Shaq coming to Australia was like,
Huge.
Like partially funded by points bets. So like, I have my own selfish reasons for.
For sure. And we'll talk about that stuff. But I think some of those ads, like with the points bet one, like the one with Iverson, like I don't even think he was here. They just shoot it to look like he's here.
Yeah. He hasn't come yet, but he's coming.
Yeah. So they just get some dudes in America, in California, to do some Aussie accents and say, yeah, g'day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they ship them like the actors over there, and then there you go. Or do like a public roll call for it. What Australians do we have in this city?
Or there'd be a few in California already.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about when you start doing your basketball portraiture, and then so who was the first player that you got to sort of meet and present them with your art? And like now I guess it's sort of teed up ahead of time, but that would have been like you just going, putting your best foot forward saying, hey, I've done this.
Actually, no.
Oh.
So the first player I had was Eric Gordon. And it was like the first time I'd ever seen NBA, like a current playing NBA player come to Australia. Like at that point, I think we had Tim Hardaway come down and Dennis Rodman. That was like just before Eric Gordon. It was like that first 6 months. And they were like the first 3 players that came down. I was like, fuck, like I wonder, like, would it be weird if I gave him a painting? So like I kind of did some research and like spoke to a bunch of people through the basketball community. I was like, who's bringing them down? Who's like, I'd like to talk to them. Who's bringing them down? Eventually, like, came to some people and I like proposed this notion of like gifting them a painting. I'll cover all the costs. You don't have to pay me. I'll just be happy for the opportunity, sort of thing. And they were pretty confused by this notion. They were like, what's he going to do with this? Well, like, why would he want this, sort of thing? I'm like, it's I sell my work for like thousands of dollars. It's like a pretty decent gift, like a memorable thing for them from their trip to Australia. Anyway, like it took a little while and they were like, okay, let's do this. And actually the person who pushed it through was Adam from Helping Hoops back in the day, mate. He rests in peace. And yeah, that was the kind of the thing that opened the door. And from that point, I kind of discovered this network of people who, bring out talent.
Yep.
And yeah, that like led into a whole crazy world of networking and back and forth emails, and it was insane.
So with the social media stuff, when you're posting, say you post someone that's not coming to Australia, you tag them, you get them to like it and they share it, and that whole thing sort of happens organically like that a bit as well?
A little bit. It's very rare that like they reshare. They might like it, but no, the reshare is very rare. The only like
Even in the early days?
Even in the early days, it's like pretty hard to get a reshare from a superstar or a current athlete. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest share I ever got was definitely Shaq.
Which is huge.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most insane days. My phone just started going boop, 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 boop. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
He'd have millions of followers.
Yeah. That was like pretty insane. Yeah, and then the next one, which was a pretty massive jump, was Kobe.
Yeah.
And
he's been your like idol for a long time.
Kobe's been my idol, since I was like 16 or whatever, 15, even younger. And
did Magic get you into the Lakers, or where was what
got me into the Lakers is like when I was in the second grade, Shaq broke the ring in his rookie season.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Well, the first time, and it made it on the news here.
Yeah.
And I remember like we were just in our living room, and I remember it like it was fucking yesterday. And I pointed to my mom. I was like, I want to play that sport. That looks really awesome. I'm like, that guy's like real life Hulk. I was like, I want to play that sport. And then like I started playing, and I started following Shaq, and I followed Shaq to the Lakers, and
so you were. So what I said, was it Magic that got you to the Lakers? And it was the Magic.
Orlando Magic. Yeah. Magic Johnson was a little bit before my time.
Before your time. Yeah. Okay. But then, sorry, let's get back to Kobe. That just popped into my head.
Yeah.
So Kobe, he'd been your idol since he came into the league.
Yeah.
And then keep going.
Yeah. So then it was a different group that was bringing Kobe down, and I think I measured it. I think I counted it as it was a proposal, and it was a different group, and I didn't know about them. And I sent 283 separate emails and messages to find the organizer, and that was like the selling point to him. Is like, this is how hard I hustle to find who you are.
You're persistent.
Yeah, I'm like, this means a lot. Like it was the Hour Group, and they were like so blown away. They're like, you know what? Not only do we want you to gift a painting, but come and be involved because you're so passionate about Kobe. And it was a very elite group. There was like this famous street baller in the Australian communities. His name's Pedro. He was part of it, and he's the one that kind of got me involved.
I used to play basketball.
Tyson,
Pedro,
yeah, there you go, yeah. And Tyson Beck, he was part of the group, and there was like a few other dudes, and basically we, you know, it was just like a room full of people that were froth Kobe, and we got to write an interview of all these questions for the, you know, the event, and like it was just unbelievable. It was the most memorable experience ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, working on that painting would have been like you were like knew that he's gonna get this. So and that's some validation. You think, fuck, I'm onto something here.
Yeah, I was like, I put a lot of like everything I had into that. I was like, I'm gonna create something that's a game changer. It'll blow him away. I spent like a month and a half on this painting, like it was which was for me a very long time back then. And
how did you go about selecting the source material, like for that, knowing that this was going to be such a pivotal point?
I constantly screenshot like interesting pictures of NBA players for references. Like I have like tens of thousands of images. Right. I have folders for Kobe.
Yeah.
And
but picking the you know,
picking the one, I think like what I did was I got it down to like 10, and then I did a coin flip competition with like to execute the 10. I was like, these are my 10 favorites that I haven't seen like anyone paint before.
That would be an interesting bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then like just using an interesting reference image. But then what happened was I delivered the painting to his hotel room, and it was sitting in there, and he was like living with this painting that was wrapped up. And I was supposed to gift it to him, but like he was running so behind schedule. He was like, I don't remember what his manager said, like 7 or 8 hours behind schedule because he had so many things. She's like, he's coming back in 8 months, and he's coming with Shaq, and I promise you, we're going to give you like half an hour of one-on-one time with Kobe. So like I got to meet him for like 5 minutes and have a chat with him, but like the painting was up in his room. Right. So I didn't get to gift it to him.
But even just meeting him that first time would have been a great moment.
Yeah, like we had some jokes, we had some back and forth.
You could show him the photo. Did you show it to him?
Yeah. I'm like,
so he saw it.
Yeah, and like he's like, oh, we'll catch up. Like my manager told me we'll catch up next time I'm back. But then he passed away. So
man, that is like, at least you got to meet him.
Yeah.
But and that whole, the tragic circumstances in which he passed away, for someone who's idolized him for your whole life, basically, that must have been a tough time, man.
I definitely cried.
Yeah,
definitely cried, man. I was in Chicago at the time. I was on a flight from Toronto to Chicago, and when I'd landed, I was sitting away from my partner, but like when I landed, I was sitting like towards the front, and like all these people in business class were like opening their phones and their laptops, and I saw all this Kobe shit. I'm like, on people's screens, I'm like, oh no, is there like some sort of like allegation or what's going on? Has he acquired a team? And Kim, like my partner, she's just come up to me and hugged me, and she's like, I'm so sorry, like Kobe just died. I'm like, I did not fucking believe it. I was like, TMC's full of shit. Like I don't, and like when I found out, I was like, oh my god. They were initially reporting that like Gianna wasn't on the helicopter, and I was like, thank God, like Gianna's. And then when like I found out that his daughter died as well, I was devastated for months.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's a tough one, and circumstances like that, no one's prepared, you know.
No.
It's for people, certain athletes, we think about them like they're fucking superheroes, like they're immortal, you know? Especially when they're in the prime of their life type thing.
Yeah, and like
hard to comprehend.
I had my whole, I had like a whole plan for my career ahead of time. I was like, I'm going to work with Kobe. That was my ultimate goal. That's still at the top of my list, to work with Kobe Bryant. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be friends with him. Like, I saw how he was with Tyson Beck. He remembered Tyson. He's like, from like their younger days because they'd worked together, and he was like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing here?"
Yep.
I was like, "Oh my god, that's my goal right there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what inevitably happens to the artwork? Do you know if his estate still has it or where?
Nah. So it never traveled with him, unfortunately. The Our Group held on to it, and they eventually just bought it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you want it back?
No. Like it's meaning it. There's no other place that it should be. Like it was what they did for me. They deserve it. I got to meet my idol. I got to work on a project. Like it was kind of it belongs there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's full on, man.
Yeah.
Like, so did Shaq? He comes back obviously without Kobe.
Yeah. So Shaq then comes down, and then it's a different game. Like after I learned kind of from my mistakes with the Kobe situation, and we like set a time, we booked a time, we booked a location where I'm going to meet him, and like I presented to him.
You're coming in with more.
Yeah, like you grow, and like you kind of like speak with his management and like make sure it gets taken with him, and like it's all got taken. Found out where it is. It's hanging in his house.
Really?
Yeah. So
amazing.
So like definitely I follow all my works now like to the end, to like the final location.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you got to meet him though as well.
I got to meet Shaq like very well. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because he's the person that got you into basketball in the first place.
It was quite unbelievable, and I kind of like got like a few minutes with him, and I kind of like gave him the gist of like he's the reason why I got into basketball and all this shit, and like kind of gave him like my elevator pitch, and he was so blown away. He asked me for my business card, my number, and he's like, "We're gonna work with you at some point." Wow. So like I had to give a card to him, a card to his manager. His manager's got my phone number. He's texting occasionally, checking in. It's like pretty amazing.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
And was he stoked with the work you presented him?
He loved it. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, this is definitely going in my house," and he made sure that it was on the plane with him. That's from what I heard.
What era Shaq are we talking that you painted there?
I painted like the photo shoot from when he signed with the Lakers. That was the most meaningful moment for me in terms of Lakers.
Because he did play for a few teams in the end.
Yeah, he did, but like it has to be Lakers. Yeah. Always Lakers.
And there was a lot spoken about with him and Kobe didn't get along, but obviously they did if they were going to come do a tour together.
Yeah, that was like
water under the bridge type stuff.
Yeah. That was like in-game beef. They're all, they're adults now and stuff like that. So like, yeah, they've figured it out.
And man, I guess meeting Shaq is going to be a huge moment, just like a lot to take in, but I'm sure he's a huge unit in general, and it must be like you feel like a bit of a dwarf in his presence.
Yeah, I think there's only like a few moments in my life that like I've cried from happiness, and that was like Kobe was one and Shaq was one.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And I guess with the Shaq stuff, it's a little bit bittersweet as well, because you think I was going to meet him and Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a tough pill to swallow too.
It was a bit overwhelming. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So then, obviously, once you get the validation from Shaq, I guess that really helps when you want to present your work to other ballers, because if it's good enough for Shaq, most people are going to go, yeah, man, like,
yeah,
it opens some doors.
I think it was like a lot of timing stuff too, because like while I was meeting Shaq, I got hit up by the LA Times because they'd seen the stuff that I'd met Kobe, the painting for Kobe, and I had a bit of Kobe work, and I think just after that they hit me up to do some stuff, and I did some stuff for LA Times. And then Phil Handy came, and it was like, just because of the way that everything was kind of timing out, sorry,
Right.
everything the way it timed out, it was like recency bias. So they hit me up to do like the Lakers 75th, the whole edition, the special edition for LA Times.
Are you selling yourself short a bit here? Maybe it wasn't just the timing.
But I think like they had like the creative directors, they look at this progress of work and the hype, and they're like,
so
shit,
it's good timing.
Yeah, it's like very like much luck of timing.
Yeah.
And
then what was that like, man? That's a spin out.
Oh man, like it was surreal. Like I thought it was spam, the email. I had worked with them like a few times already on like Olympic stuff for like the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's it. They used me for a few editions and that's going to be it. And then like I read the email and they're like, we want you to do like a whole section in the LA Times. And I was like, okay. And they're like, but we want it for the 75th anniversary of the Lakers. So I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I had to like DM like the
Check
people
LinkedIn,
I
see
work
if he's
with.
a real
It's like,
person.
is this real? Is this really happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that was definitely a pinch me moment for sure.
Yeah. And I guess you go back to their origins because they didn't even start in LA. They started in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yeah,
Lakers,
and they moved to LA. So it's that whole lineage and they were two different tones of blue back in the early days as well.
They were blue and yellow. Yeah.
Man, I love like I've got a real soft spot for graphic design, but also I just love uniforms and branding, especially sports branding. Like I always just go back and look at retro logos and stuff where they evolved from. It's so cool.
Oh man, I froth that stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
I love the way that in the last couple of years the NBA uniforms have got stripped back to real basic and minimal stuff, which obviously for a while it was a lot.
Yeah.
Now everything's sort of like monotone, but they do a great job of having so many different variations. It's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I still like the loud graphics.
Everything has a time and a place. Like it's good, you know what I mean? But I feel like some of it, like that Miami one where they had all the different fonts and stuff. I'm like, I like the minimal fucking good stuff that just is bang,
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I don't know, man. The Basquiat Brooklyn stuff, that was a amazing uniform. And like some of the Phoenix uniforms this year was like unbelievable.
Yep.
There's
the Utah rebrand was good. I like that as well, man. It's like real sort of sleek.
Yeah, there's certainly like some that like hit and some like definitely miss, like the Clippers.
Yeah.
Like they get like, these, famous graffiti artists to like rebrand them, and then it's like, oh man, that was just such a miss for me.
But you're a Lakers fan, so you have to say that.
Nah, not at all. Like there's like the love for the team, and then there's love for the art and the design, and it's like I can put them aside,
Yeah.
But like, there was definitely room to do something way cooler.
Yeah, I think Sacramento did a good job recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's so many.
Yeah. And Cav's like new creative director. He's like a famous artist.
Yep.
So like their whole rebrand has been like really interesting to watch from his perspective, because he puts like a lot of his process on social media. Of
awesome.
Like, it's like he's like a fine artist, not like he doesn't come from a design background, and it's like so cool to see that transition.
Do you think that when the Nets moved to Brooklyn and then they came with the black and white rebrand, that sort of set that trend of sort of the minimalist stuff, or was that creeping in already?
No, that definitely changed the game. Like the amount of like gear they would have sold, just because of the cool factor of Jay-Z being involved and them getting like such good like creative team, like the content was just, it was killing everybody else, that everyone had to play catch up. But now, like, I don't know how many people out there follow the Mavericks. Their social media guy is like one of my favorites that I've ever seen before. Like their social media is like no one else on any other sport.
Because the owner is a tech giant, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but
so they've got their head around it.
they were but like everyone, like Lakers is like really clean. They've always been really clean. I love their design, but like the Dallas have like completely taken it to like every time they do like a social media post, it looks like a t-shirt graphic that I would wear.
Okay.
And I'm like, fuck, like this is like a complete game changer.
Is AI involved?
I don't know, but like it's pretty. Check it out, man.
I will. Yeah, I will. Because from that branding point of view, there was a lot of teams that never deviated away. Like the Lakers for a long time, the Celtics, I think at one stage they just had a black instead of a white variant, and that was different for them.
Yeah.
Trailblazers have never changed much.
Yeah.
Man, there's a few, but there's a lot of other teams that keep evolving. But it's really cool. Like even with the Mavs who have gone in a different sort of direction, they bring it back to that original white, blue, and green. You know?
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think there's like if you look at like an origin of an original Lakers jersey to now, there's like a lot of like precision like design that like you wouldn't notice the difference, but it's way crisper.
Yeah, just subtle things here and there.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of whoever's behind the original branding.
Yeah, absolutely.
That 50 years later, or whenever they did come to LA, because it was different when it was in Minneapolis.
Oh, completely different.
So whoever's done that, it's still in 2024 with a few tweaks, stands up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I love that logo. You can see.
For sure, man. And what a full circle spin out moment that your team that you've always supported and looked up to since Shaq moved there.
Yeah.
Is what one of the first big sort of, gigs that you get to do it like that.
If my career was to end tomorrow, I'd be satisfied. I met Shaq, Kobe through art.
Yeah.
Like, what more can I ask for?
Would you ever have picked that, man, when you first started? Would you thought
no.
you did, because you didn't have that as a goal, but it just slowly became more and more fucking reachable?
Well, it was like an idea with Eric Gordon, and then it kind of like evolved from there. It's like, because no one was doing it. Now, like, you look at social media, I feel like it's every time a player is somewhere, he's getting a piece of art. Yeah.
We're not going to say you invented that.
No.
Popularized it in some way. But
I know. I've seen like people do it. I saw people doing it with like musicians and stuff. I was like, why is no one doing this with athletes?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, it's not an original idea, but it was just like something that no one was like really taking advantage of. And there are a lot of like NBA players that are avid art collectors. So like, I was like, maybe
this has got
maybe it's got legs.
So after the Shaq thing, then where are you going to from there?
You mean other players?
Yeah, or just so you're obviously now you're on the radar of some bigger brands. You're doing some bigger murals, and you're pivoting. You're doing the basketball stuff, but you're also doing basketball large scale murals as well.
Yeah, so like it definitely started like after that. I started like turning away more non-sports related things.
Give up the pretty girls on the
definitely
walls.
Definitely given up all that kind of stuff and like really gone all in on the sports stuff and really trying to focus and just try to think of innovative ways to create creative things in the art world with sports in mind and like kind of like see if I can influence something or shake some trees and see what falls out sort of thing. And so murals, paintings, illustration, that's kind of like...
And the work's coming to you now, they're just, it's, yeah.
Yeah, definitely I would say like 95% of the work is now coming to me. I'm not chasing it. But there are like, I might hear something through the grapevine of like a rumor of something and I'll definitely put like 110% of my effort if I really want it to chase that down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, I think, for any artist starting out is to get to the point of their career where people are pursuing them. You're saying no to stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And you are able to somehow shoehorn your passion into your work, which you managed to do.
Yeah. And it's like kind of like the goal now is to like leverage the previous opportunity into a bigger opportunity and then like scale up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, man, with painting these athletes, they're always like perspiring. That's another element of like, so there's portraiture, but most people don't have to paint portraits of people with beads of sweat running off their face.
I think that like it makes it the most interesting.
For sure, but it's hard. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's fun. It's fun. I love it. The sweatier, the better for me. I love putting in the detail for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, since those huge players, you've managed to present your art to a bunch of other people. Recently, sort of not that so recently, maybe last year, Giddy, who you've talked about before. Who else, man?
Dirk Nowitzki.
That's huge as well, yeah. How did that one come about?
That was one that I chased for sure. A friend of mine, Chris Feeney, was bringing him down with Chris Anstey. And I was like, oh, I painted this like big painting as well. It was like the NBA 75. And that went really viral. And that was definitely a huge turning point in my career too.
Is that like the cover of the book?
Yeah, the cover of the book.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah. And I have a personal copy of the print. And it's my goal to get as many athletes that are on there to sign that print.
Amazing.
So every time anyone from, that painting comes down, I make sure that I somehow try and get involved.
How have you got so far?
I've got 4 signatures on there so far.
71 to go.
A lot of them, not a lot of them, quite a few of them passed away. And I think the only one I missed out on was Pippen. Pippen was impossible to get in front of.
Really?
Yeah, it was really hard.
He was at an AFL game and an NBL game, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I was in the same space as him, but he wasn't really signing that much, and everyone that I knew was kind of scared to ask on my behalf.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And even at that point, I was doing a project with Luke Longley.
Yeah, I remember.
And I asked Luke Longley to help me out, and he's like, I don't know if he would sign it, sort of thing. So I tried to hustle as hard as I could. I think I hustled almost as hard as I hustled for Kobe to get him to sign it, and it just didn't happen. But I think he'll come back. I'm confident one day he'll sign it.
Yeah, it's awesome that the NBL are getting these past NBA players here, even if it is on a bit of a junket sort of thing. It's still cool.
It's hard. It's harder to deal with when it's like the NBL that's bringing someone here, as opposed to like a private company where you can take the time, because then with the NBL you got to work your way up a chain sort of thing. It's a bit more difficult
for sure. So with Luke Longley, as being an Australian basketball fan, even just working with him in any capacity is a fucking awesome moment,
Oh, it was so surreal just hanging out with him. It wasn't even working with him, even though we were on the same project together. It was literally hanging out, talking shit.
He seems like a good dude.
He was so awesome. Yeah. He was so nice. Yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah, man, because now as a Aussie Hoops fan, we're spoiled. You can basically turn on ESPN, any game, you're going to see an Aussie sooner or later.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, we had Luke Longley in arguably the biggest and most successful sports team of all time.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Andrew Gaze went over there, played a little bit, Shane Heal went and played a little bit, but we didn't really have an Aussie representation at all except Luke Longley. He was our guy. Yeah,
he was definitely the biggest star for a long time. We did have we had Mark Bradkey.
Bradkey played for a few seasons, yeah.
We had David Anderson, who played a pretty low-key long career.
That was a bit later. Yeah. That was 2000s.
Yeah, we had who else played in there? Bogut.
That was later.
Period. Yeah. But we always had a little trickle, but now we have substantial. We have dudes that are playing now in the Western Conference Finals,
which we should be checking that. You're probably we've got to go.
No, it's the East today. I don't give a shit about the East. That.
But yeah, it's sometimes I'll be watching it and my partner will be like, "Oh, so what are we doing?" And I'm like, "I'm watching it because Giddy's playing here or whatever." And then I'll be like, "Oh shit!" And then Dyson Daniels is on, and then there's 4 Aussies. Wow.
And now it's the Mavs have Josh Green and Dante Exum, so super exciting.
And what about that young kid that's 17, man, Rocco?
Yeah, he hasn't entered the league yet.
No, but I think next year,
next season
he's gonna. Yeah, he's 7'4" and he's 17 or something.
Yeah, or something like that. Well, I think it's the year after actually.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
I think this year's.
He can't get drafted till the year after.
Yeah, year after. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he'll go well.
Did you know that Melbourne, you'd know this because you're a basketball head, has had more number ones than any other city in the world?
Yeah.
Crazy fact.
Yeah. Yeah. But like every time we bring that up, they're like, oh, Kyrie's not from Melbourne.
But he was born
Yeah,
here.
he was born
That
here.
is the fact. The difference is he was born here, man. And I remember there was a stage where people thought, oh, he might play for the Boomers.
Yeah.
You know?
There was. He definitely thought about it. And I think like there was a point of time where he said he regretted that he didn't.
But he made the American team.
Yeah.
So why did he regret that he didn't? I don't know.
I think he saw the growth of the Boomers and like how like they were like, you know, a few points away from, you know, taking it away from them, and they're like, it was when was it? It was like when Bogut was still there.
Yeah.
He's like, I could have gotten them over the line. Yeah.
For sure, man. The Olympics doesn't have that much that interests me, but I'm definitely looking forward to watching the Boomers and the Opals. You know?
Yeah. Well, the Boomers are gonna get destroyed.
Yeah, but man, like it's still fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. But like the way that we got placed in the Olympics, where we have, you know, we're playing against America and Serbia in the first round, in the first seed, we're like, fuck.
Yeah, but we've proved in the past tournaments that we can mix it with the best. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I just don't see us winning against either of those teams.
Be more positive.
I hope so.
But yeah, and you've done some work with like painted the Boomers as well, man.
Yeah, I've done some work with the Boomers. It was just like for their exhibition match last time they were here before the World Cup. Yeah. Hopefully going to be doing some stuff for them now before the Olympics. We'll see.
And I remember for that artwork, Giddy was one of the main focal points, and then you did a personal one for him as well and presented that to him. How was that?
That was pretty cool. It was cool to meet him. He was like super humble guy. I thought he would be like super slick, but nah, he was super nice, super humble. Took some time. That's the best part about these paintings, is like getting those moments of having like a chat, little back and forth, little banter. Yeah, telling them I'm a Lakers fan and they should go to the Lakers.
He's man. I'm not sure if because he's young, but his dad definitely lived in Port Melbourne. He was around that area for a while. I think
he's still there.
Yeah. So they were all like, man, it's so cool for someone who grew up in the 90s going to watch the Tigers and the Magic and stuff, and seeing, you know, Dave Simmons' son and then Warwick Giddy's son and all these second generations of fucking spin out, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome. And it's like I'm only more excited to see what's coming. Yeah, because like right now, I think we already have like 15 players in the NBA. Like, who knows, in 10 years, this could be like, you know, 50, 60 players in the NBA.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think Giddy's probably going to go separate ways with OKC, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's going to get traded.
He doesn't get enough court time, man. Or maybe...
They've
got a lot of star...
Yeah, they got a lot of star power. It's like, it's a shame because like I thought him and Shea were so good together during the season. Like it just fell apart kind of there in the end there in the playoffs, and they didn't trust him, and it's a shame. But like I think he's going to land somewhere good. I kind of like DM his manager saying like, you know, he would be a perfect fit with LeBron. It's exactly what he's always needed. He needs an off the ball, like ball handler that doesn't score a lot, who rebounds. Like he's the perfect description of what LeBron's always needed.
Yeah.
But then like you hear all the podcasts and it's like, well, he would be very good with Wemby in San Antonio. And that's kind of like the hype at the moment.
Which from, you could see some championships happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Man, as a short dude, just looking at these guys on TV and how they just keep getting taller and taller, I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah. Well, Shaq is like a massive, massive unit, but like, I don't know. Like, I think the biggest guy I've ever seen is Embiid. Embiid is like, he's the same height as Shaq, but his presence is just like enormous.
But yeah, man, the thing is, right, okay, Shaq comes into the league in the 90s and he's 7'2", I think, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big guy.
Yeah.
Even for his whole career, he struggled to shoot.
Yeah.
He could dunk.
Yeah.
Now you've got dudes who are 7'4", who are dribbling, who are shooting threes, who are doing all this shit that a 7'2" guy couldn't have done.
Yeah.
It's going in a crazy way.
It's amazing. it's the future of basketball, but that's the reason why they call him an alien. Yeah,
But not just him. Like you look at Holmgren,
Yeah.
but and then like someone who you also got to meet. But so Nowitzki kind of changed the game a little bit as well because all of a sudden, big guys were expected to shoot threes,
yeah.
and that wasn't happening before that.
No, it wasn't. But like, yeah, the modern NBA has completely changed. But like, even now, it's going through an evolution where it's like you got to have both. You got to have inside and outside game now. Whereas like at like the boom of the Golden State Warriors, it was all small ball, threes. But now it's like they're kind of evolving again to find the balance.
Yeah,
It's pretty awesome. That's where the Lakers kind of sit.
You feel for like a lot of the other teams in California because the Lakers have got such a staunch following. But there's a lot of teams there. Like obviously now, Golden State have got their own thing, but the Clippers always get forgotten about.
Yeah.
Sacramento get forgotten about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a Lakers town. State, should I say, in
State.
California. But like, yeah, the Clippers are finally out of Crypto Arena next season. They're gone.
Yeah.
They got their own stadium. I think they're out in the Forum, where the Forum used to be. Thank God.
Yeah. This stadium's not
Yeah.
big enough for the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely. They just got to get rid of them. It's done. I'm happy. Yeah.
Man, I heard a stat the other day, and this is probably why there can be so many teams. There's more people in California than there is in the whole of Canada.
That's crazy.
Like 39 million people in California,
Yeah,
and there's like 38 million in Canada.
that's insane.
But
I didn't know that. I'm going to go tell my missus that now.
Have a look. I did the research the
Yeah.
other day, and then to put that into perspective again, that's 15 million more people than we have in the whole country here
Yeah, that's insane.
in a state.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why there obviously is a
I
market.
believe it. Yeah.
I fact checked.
Yeah.
With Australian sporting teams and leagues, like the AFL is in its own place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? With the way that the jumpers are designed and the branding is done, but which is its own thing. But you look at other sporting leagues and you see that they definitely try and jump on trends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
feel that as well with the like branding aspect of teams?
Absolutely. And like there's definitely like I think a lot of European influence in Australian sports design, like with all the sponsorship logos and like how loud they are and stuff like that. We definitely don't get inspired much from the States in terms of our sports design.
In America, they don't mind shoving advertising at you in sports in every capacity, except on the uniform,
Uniforms, yeah.
right? And in the NBA recently, each team has one sponsor. And
Yeah.
it's very small,
Yeah.
very tasteful.
Yeah, but like even that, like people were outraged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
But I think in a way of doing it, they've done it in a very tasteful capacity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, you think back to the AFL before everyone had sponsors slapped on everything. The EPL or soccer in general, they have
Yeah.
big fucking things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's definitely got a place, like for people who follow that sport. That's what they're used to, sort of thing. And me being an NBA guy, like I prefer less brand. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. But they've got a huge audience.
yeah,
You've got to pay for things.
Absolutely.
Eventually.
I know. But like it always baffles me how like there's so much attendance, there's so much advertising, there's so much like all that stuff, but like the funding in Australian sports is so minimal. There's like never much budget for any like out there projects, which like I think they're starting to like try and get into more interesting things, and I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
Yeah. I think that's probably still why it's a necessary evil for a lot of these leagues and teams to partner with like betting agencies because they're like, well, we just have to take the money where we can get it.
Absolutely. And like I totally get it. Like I'm not hating on it in any way, but yeah, I'd love to see more interesting activations, like not only from like a creative standpoint, but like just generally getting the city behind a team. You know what I mean? Like the culture in the States is like, you go down the road and you're gonna like spot someone in a Lakers jersey. If you're in LA, you're gonna see someone in a Knicks jersey if you go in New York. But like, it's very rare to come across someone rocking, you know, some sort of a team swag in Melbourne.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and that's because the big sport here still is AFL.
But like even that, like you do have dudes that like rock AFL gear, but like it's usually to an AFL game. It's not like part of like, you know, their everyday attire.
Well, yeah. Well, I think there was a 30 for 30 that broke this down really well. I think with Ice Cube and how the Raiders changed all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that. And then even like that's really interesting because then when you look at we talked about before, the Nets rebrand, you can see there's a fair bit of inspiration coming from that black, silver, black, white. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like I'd love for that to evolve in Australia eventually, and I think that will give, in turn, like the opportunities for like more creative, creative opportunities for sure. Because like, I mean, what was I gonna say? Like even like the business side of NBA stuff, right? So like there is the sponsorship logo on an NBA jersey, but like Nike have negotiated that like once they sell to a fan, that logo isn't there. You know, those like subtleties that like
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So say for instance, it's I don't know Verizon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So on the fan jersey, that's not on there.
Yeah, it's not on there.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like interesting ways to make it like more wearable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think about that often with like NBL jerseys. You're like, do I want fucking rolled on the front of my thing?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
Let's go with the minimal stuff.
Absolutely. And like I think now that the like Reebok is an official sponsor of the NBL, I think there's definitely room for them to grow even more.
Yeah. And maybe tweak the branding a little bit. I think that you look at some of the NBL branding and you're like, I reckon we could do better than that.
Absolutely. And hopefully it goes that way eventually. Like in Australia, I've noticed it's a lot of who you know sort of thing. So like a lot of the people in the high positions have, you know, been there because of a recommendation or they've grown throughout the company sort of thing, as opposed to they've went and headhunted like someone like who can change, you know, revolutionize like their branding sort of thing. Yeah.
Like, man, I know you're not much of a footy guy, but the Gold Coast branding is horrible, right? They had to come out in a different territory and try and change and build a brand out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It is bad.
Yeah.
And then, like, I know that that's not the only thing a football club needs to do, but it's fucking should be one of the first things you need to do.
Yeah, it's pretty important, and I think it gets overlooked too. Like, and it's like that in most. I think not only in sports, I think it's in most things that like creative gets like the kind of the back end of everything.
But yeah, but you look at a few years after or a year after, you got the GWS where I think they got the market share right with the orange and grey hadn't really been used. The name sounds good. The logo is solid. They seem to have got it right. Where the other one, they seem to have just missed the boat.
Yeah, it's all comes down to that. What I was saying before, it's like who they hired and how they found that person, and it's usually like, oh, you know, Bill from down the road, he's a graphic designer. He would be good for.
How could a and I'm going to say the AFL is $1 billion sort of company, you know, doing TV deals for hundreds of millions of dollars, just fuck up something as simple as that. And it's just
Australia. It's just the way it works, unfortunately. And it's like, it's been my experience here. It's like I've had more success internationally than I have here at home because just like
too narrow-minded.
I don't know. I just don't know if it's a combination of Australia is not ready for that kind of, you know, creative input into like stuff, or they don't see the potential in it, or they don't have the money for it, or what it could be. But like, yeah, it's definitely something over the next 10 years that I think will change here for sure.
Yeah. And I guess success plays a part of it as well. Like,
Absolutely.
you look at the Jack jumpers, which initially I didn't like the name, it's grown on me,
Yeah.
right? The branding I'm not a fan of. I don't mind the name now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you win, people go, oh, the Jacks, we're on board.
Yeah.
If you suck,
Yeah.
they would have been like that basket case team from Tassie. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I don't mind. I like teams with a mascot. I like all that kind of stuff.
The name's good. I just don't know if they executed the logo properly. But
Yeah, I mean, it's going to evolve. Like, if you look at most new teams, like within the first like 15 years or something, they like have a new logo eventually.
Yeah, let's not badmouth too many sports teams. Get us in trouble. Let's talk about In the Paint, man. So how did that come about?
I don't exactly remember where but like I ended up like through Instagram chatting with this lady Eliza who was a representative for a publisher in the Europe.
Again, overseas.
Yeah. They were looking for talent, like creatives, to publish books, and they offered me a deal where it was like very minimal risk for me, where they will cover all the costs and stuff like that, and all I had to do was fill a minimum of pre-orders, and I was like, I'll give it a go. Like, I got not much to lose except for
You've
time.
got the catalogue of work.
Yeah, and like it's something that they don't have. That's like I don't think there's many like sports artists out there who have like a catalog of work that could fill out a book. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. And I was amazed that it like sold through. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's gone now.
It's out. Yeah, it's available. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
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 But but people can still get copies.
Yeah. So like, I think like for them to produce the book, I had to like sell a minimum of like 25 copies, and then it gets in production. Yeah.
What was it like getting your hands on the book and seeing that, man?
Oh,
When
man.
you can hold it.
It's surreal because it's like it was like a bit serendipitous because like it was like a culmination of my work over the past, 10 years or something of me like transitioning into full-time sports, and you can see that evolution of like me like trying to find who I am. You can see like kind of the growth of my style to where I am today, and it kind of like closes the chapter of like, me searching for this like goal where I am at now sort of thing. So I'm just like, now I'm an established sports like artist, and like now I start my next chapter. Yeah.
Chapter, book.
Yeah.
That's a segue. So what's in the next chapter?
I think like I'm gonna try and like kind of push my career into a projects by project kind of feel, as opposed to like a job by job kind of feel. So like I want to eventually grow into like bigger, more ambitious things. So if you look at like the evolution of like any other artist, like say for instance, like my biggest inspiration is Roan.
Mm-hmm.
He was like a guy who was like a gallery artist who like created unbelievable works of art and like was like kind of growing his career, and now he does activations. And like that's kind of like the next kind of goal is to segue into that.
And not only does he do activations, he does fucking big ones.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, is to like find a way that I can collaborate with these brands that like I admire and have always looked up to in a meaningful way, and like kind of, push the boundaries of, sports art.
Yeah, for sure. And even the other things that you're doing in a non-collaborative form, when you're just doing, say, mural stuff, like you're painting full basketball courts, you're doing all that stuff, which is still leaning into your brand. So you're in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that was like me, 10 years ago, couldn't have imagined the stuff that I'm doing today. And like sometimes you just like you're working, and like you don't have time to sit back and really like admire like what you've done, and then like
Pinch yourself moment.
yeah, and like when I sat down and I flicked through my book, I'm like, shit, there's like a lot of work in there. Like it was really nice.
Yeah, and I guess as you're evolving as an artist, you learn how to quote these jobs and sort of forecast them and stuff better as well, which I think would be when you're doing whole basketball courts or huge scale murals.
Yeah.
If you kind of get that wrong, you could it could be costly.
Absolutely. And like I've definitely had, jobs in the past where I've underquoted or like said like the time frame and stuff like that and like completely fumbled the ball. But like definitely learn from your mistakes as you grow and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the next chapter for you as an artist is going to be doing some larger scale sort of stuff. But on a personal level, you've got a next chapter happening soon too.
Yeah. Yeah. Having my first kid coming any day now could be expecting a call any hour.
By the time this is out, you probably do already have a kid.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's so exciting. Yeah, like this is like that's like so amazing that it's all happening in 2024, the year of Kobe. I'm very happy. Yeah.
You probably don't want to say, but I'm guessing Kobe might be on the list of names.
It's on the short list.
It's on the short list.
We have 3 names. We're gonna have a look, see what he looks like when he comes out, and who he looks like is what he's gonna be called.
Yeah, my son didn't have a name for 48 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just couldn't decide. But man, I saw someone the other day. I can't remember who it was. Like a friend of a friend on Facebook. They called their kid LeBron.
I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. It
I don't
popped
know.
up and I'm like, LeBron.
Yeah, that's amazing for a white kid to be called LeBron.
Who was it? But
I don't remember.
Popped up.
Yeah, I saw it on my feed too. That was
Yeah.
amazing. It was like LeBron Michael or something, or LeBron Jordan or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing now, man, with picking names, and I'm seeing as my son's getting older, Kevin and Chris and Michael and Paul and all these normal names are all getting replaced by, all these other trending names.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to pick the name that, there's a million Noahs out there. So you want to pick something, you know what I mean? A million Luke. So you don't want to get the other trending names.
Absolutely. But like it's also like a delicate thing because like you don't want to get something that's hard to spell or hard to pronounce or anything like that. It's not confusing and stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's like when people think I'm going to have this original name because it's going to be a traditional name that they have to spell different, that's just hard for the poor kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not creative.
Not only that, but like when you're like getting roll call or something like that at school and like, yeah.
That's the thing, man. You got to think this name has to be good for this kid at kinder, but also good when they're having a beer at a barbecue in 40 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, it's such an interesting thing to consider.
But I think that you need to think about that.
Yeah, some people don't.
If the name is too cutesy, you got to think that person has to be a grown person at some stage.
Yeah, imagine like having like a girl and her name is Rainbow and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or
For
something
sure.
like that, yeah.
That's it, man. No offense to any rainbows out
No.
So can you tell us, you've said some large-scale activations. Is there any hints or anything else you can tell us about what's happening for Kev in 2024, maybe leading into 2025?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I've been working on now is my solo show, which I haven't had one since 2016. And it wasn't because I didn't want one. It's just because after the success of my first show, I was like, shit, I got to think of something that's interesting and hasn't been done before. And I feel like it's a leg up from what I did previously. So I've been negotiating with Nike and Foot Locker for a couple of years on trying to like get involved in the project. And it got greenlit like at the end of last year. And I've been working on it ever since in the background. And yeah, that's going to happen with the start of the next NBA season in October.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I try not to reveal too much because like even though like a lot of things that have kind of been signed off, not everything is rock solid at the moment. So like we are the premise of the show is I've always wanted to have something a bit different, and I've noticed that typically when you go to like an opening, it's in one location, and then other places miss out. So I was like, what can I do to create a show where like kind of as many people get eyes on it as possible
Simultaneously. Yeah.
simultaneously. So like my goal was to have it in multiple locations at once. I'm not replicating the same paintings, but like I'm going to have multiple paintings in multiple states and maybe overseas.
Huge, man.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
You've got to be stoked with that.
I am. It's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I hope to get it over the line.
For sure.
Many hundreds of hours have been poured into it. Yeah.
And that is one thing that I guess doesn't change is you still, even if you are successful, you still got to put in all the work.
Absolutely. I think like, and the balance of like trying to stay relevant and like current, especially in like the sports world where like you could get forgot about very quickly unless you're putting out like relevant content and stuff like that. So like trying to keep up with that as well as my personal brand and my solo show all at the same time has been like probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
And now that like I have like my first son coming too, to throw that into the mix, I've been informed that my life is about to be very interesting.
And you forgot on that list of stuff, keep all the people in the Artshole in line too, man.
Yeah. Make sure they all pay rent. And,
Exactly.
well, I think that's secondary in nature. Like, I don't think there's ever been a month where I haven't had to chase someone up in 13 years. Yeah.
It's either that or the art pong getting in the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, but so like with social media now and the way that everything moves and the growth, if you do something on a large scale like that, you could see a huge uptick in followers and then levels to if you're doing simultaneous things at once, that could pop off real quickly.
I hope so. That's the goal. I mean, like I have like a okay following. It's like something that like definitely weighed on me like for many years, that like my growth in my social media following wasn't like what I thought it should be. Looking at like what other people in the similar market have done and like the size of their followership, and always compared myself to them, and that kind of like bummed me out. And like
it's just numbers though, man.
It is. And then like that's the beauty of having a space where you can share with like other creatives and like have talks to talk it out and like really take a look at like who's following me, and like as opposed to the number of people
Quality
following.
over quantity.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting in that artist space. An artist mutual friend of both of ours I was talking to the other day, and he said that he's been sitting on the same sort of number of followers for like 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you just sort of hit this, not a ceiling, but it just kind of hits a stagnant point. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah. I've been grinding it out like on a similar number for like years now. It's like you have these opportunities and these things that like you wish for that you think that are going to grow, and then you like get like 100 or 200 followers and then it drops off. Yeah. And it always balances out.
But it's the same with anything though, man. It's like with certain videos I'll put out, I'm like, this person's got a huge following.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't, but then someone who might have 3,000 people gets 4,000 views overnight. Yeah. You just never know, man.
You never know. And it's like comes down to algorithms and all that kind of shit, and yeah, you can't control it.
I think what it really is important is that having an engaged following, having a smaller engaged following is better than having a huge unengaged following.
Absolutely.
Or disengaged. I don't know what the opposite to engaged is.
Yeah. I definitely took a long time to like mentally kind of separate myself from that. And also like, being a guy who like is constantly thinking and has like anxiety and stuff like that, to open up myself to like opportunities like this and like talking more on live and my stories and stuff like that, and like learning how to deal with social media is its own thing.
That's the thing, man. This is the thing, and I'd like to think that people like me and you are social media veterans because we've probably been involved in Instagram since it started.
Yeah.
But it's fucking always changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? From an artist's perspective, when it started, you could post a photo. Here is me with a blank piece of paper. Here's me with a finished piece. Here's me giving it to somebody. Amazing content.
Yeah.
Now they want you to go live. They want you to do videos. Like, they keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a lot. And like, you know, you got to be on TikTok, you got to be on LinkedIn, you got to be on Facebook, you got to be on Instagram, you got to be on every fucking social media out there. And it's just like, it comes to a point where it's just like, nah, like, I'm going to focus on Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's it.
I think from an artistic point of view, Instagram's probably where it's at. I've never even started a LinkedIn, so I wouldn't know where to begin. But I think Instagram's good for that, but you just have to keep changing the way. And I guess you'd see when you do a large-scale mural, you need a video to accompany it, not just stills. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even like pressure from the customer to the client.
They want content.
They want a video now. They want the photos. They expect it. Yeah. Especially like with like that previous project that I did, the Kobe mural. They were like, you know, we would like, you know, all this content to be part of the package.
From an artistic perspective, though, the thing is, it sucks because the best artists get left behind, and the people that are just good at branding themselves and doing all that sort of stuff are the ones that really get the chocolates at the end of the day.
Absolutely, it's an interesting world, and like we all deal with it every day. We vent to each other, and like at the end of the day, you got to be happy with what you got, and if you're not, you got to fight for. Yeah.
That's it, man. And I guess you're just in a good spot now where the work is coming to you, and then you can do that, and then hopefully the social stuff sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And having a creative group like the Artshole, I guess, helps you like bounce ideas off each other and talk about these sort of things, and you've got a team sort of riding with you that you can always, you know, fall back to and
yeah, absolutely. And like we all like, you know, get ideas from each other, and like even advice on like color or composition or anything like that, like small stuff that like people don't really think about, like small considerations and DMs about our frustrations of, you know, certain people or like certain opportunities and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
So it's like a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, well, we've almost chatted for 2 hours.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's been good.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people, when they come in, you know, someone like yourself who's a little bit reserved, a bit apprehensive, but as we talk and as time go, I think generally people enjoy the chat.
Yeah,
I hope you've enjoyed it, man.
Oh, absolutely. Loved it. It's different, like definitely a different change of pace. Got to talk some hoops.
Yeah.
Got sports, some design, some art. It was great.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
And I would love to have you come back when you've got a 6-month-old kid, and you know we can talk about that, and we can probably talk about your new project when when it's ready to go.
Awesome, that'd be great.
Kev, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Awesome.
You happy?
Yeah, man.
Is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to?
No, I think that's everything. We're going through my whole life,
which is cool. But see, what I want to do.
3,000.